everybody. I am Lorii Abela, your clinical hypnotherapist and your linguistic programming practitioner. Welcome to tonight's episode of Ready, Jetset, Go. Here at Ready, Jetset, Go, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in travels. And last December, my husband and I were in Puerto Rico. So my husband is originally from Puerto Rico, and we go 2 times in a year. In order to visit my mother-in-law. So my mother-in-law is currently in a senior's home because when Maria came, the Hurricane Maria came, and then the COVID came, her anxiety and depression became so big. And so we want to help her combat her sadness and anxiousness, so she has to have somebody who's going to be able to help her for her daily life. And she was just living by herself because, like, my husband is a single child, and the idea is, of course, like, to make things much more easier for her. Things like that cannot be stopped for seniors because it's the process of life. You know, one day we'll be having some diseases, or one day probably we'll even forget what's our name. So who knows, like, you know, what's going to be like. And we're just visiting her to make sure that, you know, everything is taken care of. My mother-in-law seems happy with the seniors home that she's staying, and they feed her regularly. And the interesting part about that is she eats great. Like, she likes sweets, and then she was asking us to have some cakes during the visit that we have. So we have to go grocery shopping for her, and she doesn't have much support from the relatives that they have over there, because her sister and brother are already old as well. So they cannot be traveling and visit her. They themselves cannot be visited either, because they're getting old. Like, all of them are, like, you know, in their 80s. And come to think about it, such is life, and we have to just support them as much as we can. But, you know, if there's nobody, so, like, we have to figure out who's going to be able to help them. And in order for the seniors, in order to move around, they need a driver, or they have to be counting on the availability of their children. But the children nowadays, those people in sandwich generation, they don't have much time either, because they either have their own family already, and they're busy with work. So yeah, it's a challenge. And it's always nice to visit my mother-in-law, because she is very sweet, and I think she's having some memory issues. She's always asking me about my sisters, because I told her that I have a younger sister, and she's asking me, like, okay, how is your younger sister? Is she married? And so my younger sister is my stepsister, and she's only 13 years old. So that's the regular question that she has for me. And the other thing is that he's always asking my husband, so when are you gonna retire? Sometimes she doesn't even know how old she is. She had her birthday January 2nd, and she doesn't know even her age. So we love Puerto Rico, but obviously, like, in circumstances like that, sometimes you cannot stop it but feel mixed emotions, because you're here, you're there in order to see her, but at the same time you feel like, okay, disturbed, because you can only do so much with the limited vacation that you have. So I'm sure, you know, we're not the only ones who have the same kind of experience as far as, like, taking care of somebody on their own in another country. So a lot of migrants have the same situation, and all they can do is just travel back and forth. And lucky if they're just not too far away. And I would imagine it's very sad. Like, once we go to the seniors' home, there are a lot of them who have been visited by their children if they are just staying in Puerto Rico as well. But if their children are from another country, or like the mainland of the United States, then the chances are very limited. Unless they really travel for work and then they have to go back Puerto Rico to the mainland, Puerto Rico to the mainland. So it's not like, something that anybody can just jump into. So while we were there, it's interesting because my husband had a class reunion, and one of his classmates actually arrived in Puerto Rico before the class reunion. So we were expecting that we're not even probably gonna be meeting this classmate that he is a good friend of, because the time that he has is different from our timing. And unfortunately, his father passed away. And so it's a natural state of life, and somebody will be dying, sooner or later. And he was just there, and then he just had to fly again. So thank God that, he has the capacity to go and travel again in order to take care of the business of setting things in order as far as his father is concerned. And this kind of things is just natural. So actually, when my father died, it's the same scenario that have happened to me. Like, I went to the Philippines, and when I went to the Philippines, I was just wondering, there's something wrong with my father, because like we live in a walk-up in the Philippines, and then he, in order to see me, because I sat at a reunion with him and his sibling and another relative of ours, and he had to climb up like four stories. But he was in his he was 88 then. He made it, but he was catching his breath. But once he reached the top, then he was just like relaxed. But the thing is, I noticed that there's some problem because he was having some appetite problems. He's not really interested to eat. There's a lot of food out there, but he didn't really ate anything much. And so I told my stepmother to take my father to the hospital, and so they did. And so, yeah, when I went to visit him into the hospital, the doctor said okay, sooner or later he's gonna be going home. And then when I went back to the United States, I was wondering, there's something wrong. How come my father is still in the hospital? It's already a week later. And so I asked my sister, who's living in the Philippines, why don't you check on our father? Because he's been there in the hospital for a long period of time. And so that's the interesting thing about that, is that it seems like there's something wrong. And it was just, weird, because they were not able to take care of his health condition, so we have to transfer him to another hospital. And my father just died in the second hospital that he moved into, because the first hospital didn't do as much as they can to take care of my father. And obviously those kind of travels are hard, because my father died while I was on a layover in Hong Kong. And things like that can happen. You just have to manage your grief. And, that's the reason why I said to myself, okay, if I can help myself, I can probably even help other people. That's the reason why I actually have ventured into hypnotherapy and neuro-linguistic programming, because we want to help other people who are in such a state and make things happen for them. And yeah, there are things that not so good about traveling. Death is one of them. Somebody has passed away, but such is life. And you have to manage everything no matter how much crying you have, it's not going to bring back your father. And there are some occasions you have heard some people whose relative died during COVID, they cannot even travel because, like, there were a lot of restrictions, so they cannot actually go to their particular country. So they just grieve on their own in the country that they're staying at. They were not able to go anywhere. So in this talk show, you can be your own Rick Stibbs, Joseph Rosendo, or Peter Greenberg, and even Samantha Brown for women. And you can have your own story about your travels with your own twist. And we're always looking for resource speakers who are either professionals in the industry or travel enthusiasts. So we want to have you over here, and just give us a holler, and then we'll be happy to have you. So I see you next time. You take care. Thank you.